setting a proper motivation, which consists of three parts. One, the refuge field, what to visualize, how to visualize. Visualize the enlightened beings, such as the Buddha Shakyamuni, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, all the other enlightened beings that we have in mind in front of us. Number two, how to visualize them. They are like your mothers, and you come home demoralized, being bullied by elder children in the school, and your mothers waiting there, your mothers are waiting there to give you full love, affection, attention, and so forth. And the Bodhicitta field, visualize your two kind parents and all the family members around you, and all dear mother sentient beings living on that side, including those people, those difficult people, you visualize around you. And here, why we are trying to visualize everyone, including the difficult ones, is to transcend our ordinary perception, ordinary ways of thinking, of splitting yourself from others. So the split creates attachment to the self and aversion towards others. So that is one responsible for creating all miseries. And the purpose of this practice is to identify, to discover the incredibly beautiful treasure that each one of us has, the treasure of perfection that exists within each one of us. All the enlightened beings, such as the Buddha, Jesus Christ, the Krishna, and Prophet Muhammad, all these enlightened beings, the enlightenment that they experience is actually present within each one of us. So it is obscured by the mental defilements. Like the gold, when mixed with the soil, you cannot see the gold, you only see the soil. Only in the eyes of the experts, they can see that this is not ordinary soil, this is very precious soil mixed with gold. How do we know this? Remove the soil and the gold will start glowing. So likewise, our mind, however defiled it is, deep inside, it is an incredible treasure of perfection, treasure of enlightenment. So the purpose of our class here is to identify, discover this incredible treasure within us, and then resort to the ways and means to eradicate the mental defilements and discover, make this the precious seed of awakening, seed of perfection, seed, the treasure of happiness to manifest fully. So with that in mind, and imagining that you are leading this, and your two parents and all sentient beings are joining you, and happily joining you in this journey, let us turn to page 2 and say this together. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to this. To you, the Buddha Dharma, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma. To you, the Buddha Dharma, I pay homage. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the Immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, the Buddha Dharma, I pay homage. Independent origination, there is no ceasing, no arising, no annihilation, no. The one who taught us peace, which is afraid of elaborations. I prostrate to the mothers of the Buddhas and the hearers and Bodhisattvas, who through the knowledge of all these hearers see a pacification to complete peace, who through the knowledge of past causes also have greatest to achieve the aims of the world, and through the possession of omniscience to subdue and set forth the varieties of in all aspects. The one who has transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you are my prostrations. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations, and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth for enable. To you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. Okay, page 7, from the bottom. I go for refuge until my enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of practice with giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until my enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By my accumulations of practice with giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until my enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. By my accumulations of the practice of giving and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye joda zoge jonamla, chanju bardu dane gyapsushi, dage jin soge ve sonamge, jola penjir sangye tu barasho, sangye joda chanju bardu dane gyapsushi, dage jin soge ve sonamge, jola penjir sangye tu barasho, sangye joda zoge jonamla, Chanju bardu dane gyapsuchi, dagi dola benjir zangye jo barayisho. All phenomena arise from causes. The causes are taught by the Tathagata. The cessation of causes as well as taught by the BC. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tathagato yavatat tesham chayo nirodha evam vati mahashramanaye swaha. Okay, page 17, Heart of the Mantra. Again, once again, your parents, all sentient beings, they're joining you, and you're being inspired by the Buddha Shakyamuni, saying that don't remain in the face of samsara, come to his ultimate happiness, discover your ultimate happiness, discover your ultimate treasure of happiness that exists within you, and come to his ultimate happiness. And you hearing this melodious voice of the Buddha Shakyamuni, then you inspire your two parents, all your family members, including your children, and everyone, all sentient beings, leaving them aside, that look, this is what our very compassionate teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, is exhorting us thus. Let us not remain in the fields of samsara anymore. Let us all go together, go together towards ultimate happiness by discovering this, the treasure of the lasting happiness within us. And everyone happily joins you in this journey. Yata Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasambhati Bodhisvatyata Om Gati Gati Arasambhati Bodhi Swaha. Okay, page 19. 8 verse 1 training. Find the purpose after studying the 10 systems and out of studying all this, the very sophisticated, intricate, the texts are the purpose is to undertake this journey. Gade Gade Para Gade Para Samvati Bodhiswaha. So this journey, how to take this journey is by resorting to two main factors. One is to give rigor, to give energy to you to undertake this journey. This energy is given by the unconditional love to essential beings. Mother is seeing that their children, they're all going through starvation. The more the number of the children, more energetic, more enthusiastic the mother will become to look for food to help the children. So likewise, the compassion that you feel towards the other sentient beings, not just one or two people, but towards all sentient beings, then the energy that you get will be much greater. So that energy comes to you through bodhicitta. And then while you have this energy, you must know where you're going, the direction to seek this food. So the direction is given by the wisdom. So the Heart Sutra, the mantra which we recited, so that is to giving us the wisdom to see the direction. And the bodhicitta is to give us the energy to undertake this journey. Gate Gate, Para Gate, Para Samvati Bodhiswaha. So 8 verse mind training which we're doing here, this is primarily to boost this bodhicitta, unconditional love towards other sentient beings. So the counter force of this unconditional love is the anger, hostility, ego, and so forth. So 8 verse mind training, this is primarily to subdue our ego, subdue our anger, subdue our self-referential ego. So when the ego is subdued, then we see that we're not to compromise the self-confidence. So while the ego is subdued, self-confidence should not be compromised. Instead, self-confidence should be boosted. So there, the more you're able to boost the self-confidence, and the meaning of subdue the ego, that is the meaning of someone becoming saintly. So how to distinguish between someone who's saintly and an ordinary person is on the basis of how the person treats these two things. Treating these two things as same. When the ego is subdued, your self-confidence goes down. Or when self-confidence is boosted, your ego goes up. So that's the indication of our being very ordinary. Whereas should you be a saintly, what is the real meaning of saintly, is where your ego is subdued, but the self-confidence is boosted. That is not compromised. The more you're able to do that, the more saintly you are. So this is the purpose. With that in mind, so in short, the Gate Gate, Para Gate, Para Samvati Buddha, so we are all seeking ultimate happiness. And this happens if you really want to have that. We should be kind with ourselves by thinking of rendering the greatest benefit to yourself, the happiness to yourself. And then number 2, by being wisely kind with yourself. So in the process of you trying to give happiness to yourself, sometimes you're being very unskilled, being very unwise. So we engage in all the actions which are all meant to give us happiness to, in actuality bringing only miseries on us. Whereas wisely being kind with ourselves, meaning to engage in activities, engage in your thought processes, verbal processes, the physical processes, and that they actually give rise to happiness to you. So for that matter, there are 2 things required. One is the wisdom, which gives rise to the proper direction towards your happiness, and the other, the unconditional love, which gives the energy to you, which gives the maximum, the joy within you. And the wisdom will give you the fearlessness. So the fearlessness and the joy combined together, it makes the person complete, and it is the greatest meaning. It is the extraction of the greatest meaning of you from your life. Okay, with that in mind, let's turn to page 19. It was my training. with the determination to achieve the highest aim for the benefit of all sentient beings, which surpasses even the wish-fulfilling journey. May I hold them dear at all times. Whenever I interact with someone, may I view myself as the wisdom soul, and from the very depths of my heart, respect for the whole others as superior. In all my deeds, may I grow up into my mind, and as soon as mental and emotional afflictions arise, as they endanger myself and others, I strongly confront them and avert them. When I see beings of unpleasant character, or oppressed by strong negativity and suffering, may I hold them dear, for they are rare to find, as if I've discovered a jewel treasure. When others out of jealousy treat me wrongly with abuse, slander, and scorn, may I take upon myself the defeat and offer to others the victory. When someone whom I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me in extremely hurtful ways, may I regard him still as my precious teacher. In brief, may I offer benefit and joy to all my mothers, both directly and indirectly. May I quietly take upon myself all the hurts and pains of my mothers. May all this remain undefiled by the stains of the eight mundane concerns, and may I recognize all things as illusion, the word of clinging be released from bondage. So this stanza, 8 verses, they are more to subdue our ego, and meanwhile boost the self-confidence, particularly the stanza which we would read now, page 21. This is to boost the self-confidence. From my 2 collections, vast space that I've amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom eyes planted big their ends. Okay. Let's turn to page 15 of the 10th system, the Precious Garland. Okay, so last time we were talking about the Buddha bodies. Say when each one of us, when we are able to identify, we are able to discover the hidden treasure within us, the most precious treasure of happiness within us. So what will each one of us become like? So in the last session, we talked about the Buddha bodies. When you become enlightened, when you become fully enlightened, so what are you going to be like? In what way are you going to benefit yourself in a complete form? In what way are you going to benefit all other sentient beings in the fullest form? So this was what we discussed. So in relation to the opening verses of homage. So let's quickly go through them once again. Melted by the warmth of compassion, stream, now I'm reading it, so you just see if you can understand something from what we discussed last time. Melted by the warmth of compassion, streams flow from the snow mountains of your 2 great accumulations to gather on the land of a spontaneous Dharmakaya, thereby proliferating the water body of the 4 tenor systems. So what we discussed there meant, say, when you become Buddha, say what we have is the Dharmakaya. This is what we discussed already. So those of you who are here, again, the first time, I will not, of course, I'm not going to get the time to go through them again. So what we have is the Buddha Dharmakaya, then the natural Dharmakaya. So on the basis of natural Dharmakaya, then we manifest the wisdom Dharmakaya, Jnana Dharmakaya. From the Jnana Dharmakaya, depending on the beings whom you are to benefit, then the Sambhogakaya, the enjoyment body, Sambhogakaya arises, which is accessible only to the Arya Bodhisattvas. So from there, once again, the Nirmanakaya arises, in order to benefit all the ordinary beings, all the ordinary beings. So this is how we understand the 4 Buddha bodies. Then on that basis we also discuss about the 5 Buddha bodies, 3 Buddha bodies, 2 Buddha bodies, 1 Buddha body. Okay, so melted by the warmth of compassion, streams flow from the snow mountain of your 2 great accumulations to gather on the land of spontaneous Dharmakaya, the land of spontaneous Dharmakaya. So Dharmakaya is given the analogy of the mainland. So in this land, what happens is the the streams flow from the snow mountain. Snow mountain, streams flow. What streams? The accumulation merit and accumulation the wisdom. So these two flow and fill the land of the Dharmakaya. So, okay, together on the land of spontaneous Dharmakaya, thereby proliferating the water body of the 4 tenant systems. So from this, the water simply increases. Because the streams flowing there on the ground Dharmakaya, then the water body increases in volume. Okay, so this, from this water body, from the way to understand the analogy of this, the water body is the analogy, is that this water benefits the beings. So how the Buddhas benefit the beings is physically, verbally, and mentally. So physically, the Buddha can perform miracles. But the miracles, how the performance of miracle, Buddha perform miracle helps us. It is, you are so mesmerized. You are mesmerized. Wow, it's amazing. So this being, you may not be able to identify that person as Buddha, or this being could fly in the air. Then you are so mesmerized you cannot fly, right? Although the person is flying, you see the person flying, then you cannot fly, right? And then the person may disappear, then you cannot disappear. So what you have is just a sense of awe. So with this sense of awe, what's the benefit? You are actually not directly benefited. There is no transformation taken within you. But what happened was that you are attracted towards the person. So a physical miracle can attract the person towards you. So with this, then what happens is that the person will. So finally, that why should those persons be attracted towards you? Because those persons are suffering. Suffering of what? Suffering of the same, suffering of being attracted to, not towards enlightenment, to samsara, right? To samsara. So they're attracted to samsara, not towards enlightenment. So now you are there to tell them that samsara is not to be attracted. Nirvana, enlightenment is what you have to go towards. These are things that you should feel attracted towards. So if you go there and teach like this, nobody will listen to you. So first, you should appeal them. You should appeal, meaning you should have a sense of appeal. You should have a sense of attraction. Draw their attention. How will you draw their attention and attraction? Is by performing miracles. When you perform miracles, if you can do a very strange, the yogic, not yoga, but physical exercises which ordinary people cannot do, then you become His Holiness, you become, what, Shri, whatever, right? 3, 4, 5, 6 Shris will come to you, right? And then although you are just an ordinary person who has just physical ability. Okay, so with this, millions can be attracted. And the millions, and how many of those people are materially transformed? How many people they are already gone to enlightenment? No one. Right? Now, because millions they're attracted to you, what's the benefit? The benefit is that they're attracted to you, they are keen to listen to you. So when you say something, then they think that this is coming from the divine. So they're attracted towards your words. So then you say something that what you are seeing is illusion-like. What you see is not true. Actually, things exist dependent originated. Then people will pay heed to it. For example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, recently for the last teaching, I heard that His Holiness mentioned about we should talk about, have a conversation or discussion, dialogues, conference on quantum physics and Buddhist philosophy. Everybody started to talk about quantum physics. And then His Holiness gave the teaching on Buddha Parita. And everybody talked about Buddha Parita. Right? So therefore, look, this is the greatness. So when somebody who is of such a stature of attraction, so in fact, Buddha Parita existed several thousand years, like 2,000 years, it existed. In the monastic universities, you only hear about Aranagarjuna, Acharya Chandrakirti, Aranagarjuna, Acharya Chandrakirti, right? And then Buddha Parita being studied there, not really as the main. But then this treasure is going to disappear. If you don't study that, it's going to disappear. So if people like us, if I say the Buddha Paleta, nobody will listen. So when his student says, everybody's speaking Buddha Paleta. So this is the greatness. So therefore, to have that ability, physical, the physical, say, the manifestations to appeal to people, this is so precious. So with this, finally, with the physical appeal, people are not transformed. People are still in samsara. So what can help the people to get out of samsara is their thinking should be changed. Their thinking should be changed. Their thinking should be changed. Because people are putting on, for example, the beings, they are putting on a very dirty lens. With the dirty lens, even if you say there's no Mount Everest is so clean, Mount Everest is so clean, but they keep looking at it through the dirty lens because you see dirty. Right? So that by performing the miracle, then they will come to listen to you. And then you say that the Snow Mountain is very clean. Then Snow Mountain is very clean. Even though still they can see it's dirty, they will say it's very clean because they trust you. And then people start asking each other, how is it clean? Because it's dirty. Right? Then you go to that teacher, how is it clean? Then the teacher will say, you have to clean your lens. Don't look there, it's your lens. And you start cleaning it. Then you start, it's cleaner, right? So finally, first the physical, the miracle helps the people to be attracted. And then with the physical, the miracle, people, they are drawn towards they become your fan. Once they become your fan, then what you say, people will listen to you. Then his soul says that you need to clean your lens of the mind. Lens of mind, then you start cleaning the lens of the mind. As you start cleaning the lens of the mind, then you see that, okay, things are very different. Right? Earlier, when I'm by myself, I would say that I'm so lonely. Now, instead of being lonely, I see myself as so much of privacy. Then, when you're with other people, right? Earlier you would say that I have no privacy. Now I will say that I'm not lonely. Right? So changing the thinking happens. Because changing the thinking happens, you become a very happy person. Very happy person. So finally, what brings happiness in us is by changing our thought process. To change our thought process, how to change the thought process? Not through miracle, through giving us the guidance, giving the teachings. And teachings happen through verbal. So the verbal is so precious. Of all the deeds of the Buddhas, the physical deeds, physical divine deeds, the verbal divine deeds, and the mental divine deeds, of all the three, what directly benefits beings is the verbal. This is the most precious thing. So the mental, the Buddhas, they see every atom of the universe simultaneously, every phenomena simultaneously. But we have no clue that this is happening because the Buddha's mind is totally obscured because of the cloud of the mental states that we have. So now, but the Buddha's words, these we can inherit, we can subject them to analysis, we practice them, and then we see that our mind gets cleansed. And then we become happier. Okay. So it says that the water body of the water bodies, which is also analogous to the divine activities, physical, verbal, and the mental activities of the Buddhas, of these particularly the verbal, the teachings of the Buddha. Okay. Proliferate in the water body of the four tenet systems. So these teachings, the divine, the words of the Buddha, they come in the form of the teachings. And the teachings, they come in the form of the four tenet systems. Right? Teachings. Teaching what? Teaching ultimate reality. And ultimate reality is so profound that we cannot really fathom the depth of the ultimate reality directly. So it is for this reason that the Buddha Shakyamuni, after achieving enlightenment at the Bodhi tree, he remained silent for 49 days. Then at the request of Indra and Brahma, at the request of the kings, the kings of the celestial beings, the devas and devis, they descended, made prostrations to Buddha, and said that why the awakened one, enlightened one, is not giving, turning the wheel of Dharma, not giving teachings. Please give teaching. So they offered the wheel of life, they offered, the Dharma wheel, they offered the conch, the Dharma's conch, indicating, being symbolic of blowing the conch of the Dharma, the teachings, and turning the wheel of the Dharma, the teaching. So with this gesture, then finally Buddha accepted, and then he taught the ultimate reality in 4 steps. So these came to be known as the 4 tenet systems. So the 4 tenet systems, they become like the water body proliferating to benefit the beings. 10 systems. The endless waves of your boundless activities shooting high up into the sky, thus terrifying the childlike Tirthikas. Okay, so the water, the waves coming out of this, the analogy was given. The waves coming out of this, the waves, they are actually water. Water, a source of life for us. But the water, when they come in the form of such the very powerful waves, then some people who are scared of the water, particularly seeing the waves rising high up in the air. High up means, philosophy-wise, the very high philosophy, very sophisticated philosophy. When it rises to such a height of the thought processes, the philosophy and so forth, then the Tirthikas meaning the contemporaries of the Buddha, the contemporary teachers of the Buddha, who were talking about the opposite of what the Buddha was teaching. So these teachers, they were being so scared of seeing these waves rising high up, terrifying the childlike Tirthikas. It is the victory of the vast expanse of the Mahamuni. Mahamuni referring to the Buddha. Maha is the great, Muni is the Buddha Shakyamuni. So it is the victory of the vast expanse of the Mahamuni, the Buddha who shows the gateway for infinite confident bodhisattvas. So the Buddha Shakyamuni, who was like this, the Dharmakaya, in the form of the ground on which, because of his practice of compassion and the wisdom, the 2 streams flowing, then filling up the whole land of the Dharmakaya in the form of the teachings of the Buddha, the 4 tenet systems. So that way, that while it scares the contemporary Tirthika teachers, but it gives such inspiration and the directions to the bodhisattvas, confident bodhisattvas. Okay, I prostrate to the benefactor. Now, so the point is that this passage is words of salutation to the Buddha Shakyamuni, the initial teacher who taught this amazing, amazing part of the wisdom of emptiness, which is the only panacea to lead beings to the state of total freedom from the miseries. So this is a bridge to Buddha Shakyamuni. Now, Buddha Shakyamuni having taught this incredibly great legacy, the great panacea for the beings, so then who inherited these teachings? So 1, it says, I prostrate to the benefactor Maitreya. Maitreya, you see the both versions, Buddha Maitreya and the Bodhisattva Maitreya. So it's the same being. So this is what we have to know, because this class is more a very professional class, going into detail into the studies. The Buddhism, there are 2 aspects. One is the Sutra system, and the other one is the Tantra system. Sutra system and the Tantra system. According to the Sutra system, and of course the Tantra system, Tantra, not the popular Tantra, not that one, the real Tantra, the real sophisticated Tantra. So according to the Sutra system, the Maitreya, Manjushri, Arabhadapatishvara, Arabhajapani, Aratara, they are all classified as bodhisattvas in Sutra system. They are all classified as bodhisattvas. In Tantra system, they are all classified as Buddhas. In actuality, what's actuality? What's the reality? Reality is what the Tantra text says. So they are all Buddha. So Maitreya in actuality is a Buddha. So it is referred to as the I prostrate to the benefactor Maitreya, who is the regent of the Buddha. Regent of the Buddha, meaning that Buddha Shakyamuni, when he was in Tushita realm, Tushita heaven, then he was conceived in the womb of the Mahadevi, Mayadevi, the Buddha's mother. So before that, Buddha, according to the Sutra system, the Buddha Shakyamuni there, knowing that now it was time for him to come to planet Earth to help the beings. So before that, he was presiding over or heading the Devas and Devis, celestial beings, into Tushita realm. So then he then they say passed on his, or he coronated the Maitreya, the Maitreya Buddha as his heir. He coronated him as the one to lead the beings there into the heaven, and then he came down on the earth in the form of the conception in Mayadevi's womb. Okay, so this is Maitreya. So benefactor Maitreya, who is the regent of the Buddha. Regent meaning the heir of the Buddha in Tushita heaven. Then, so we have to see that the teachings of the Buddha can be classified into two. What are the two streams? What are the two streams mentioned there to fill the body, water body of the Dharmakaya? What are the two streams? The wisdom of the stream of the wisdom and the stream of the merit. Two. Wisdom also referred to as the wisdom accumulation and merit accumulation. Merit in wisdom. Okay. Now, the teachings of the Buddha, all teachings of the Buddha somehow can be classified into two. Teachings on the wisdom, teachings on the merit. Right? Teachings on wisdom and the merit. As I said earlier, gate gate, para gate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. So this gate, go beyond, go utterly beyond, and establish your enlightenment. So go means you have to move. There should be movement taking place. So this movement, in order for a movement to take place, there should be two things. One is, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? You need to know the destination. So this destination will be, you will know the destination through your proper eyesight. So that resembles with wisdom. So with the wisdom, you know where to go. Then, with the proper eyesight, but if you don't have the legs, or if you don't have the energy to go, you're so weak, then you cannot go. Although you know where to go, but you cannot go. So then, with the proper eyesight, then you need to have physically, you should be very strong. You have to take nutritious food in order to energize you. Right? So that is like the merit accumulation. So whereas you are very strong, but you don't have the proper eyesight to see where you're going. Then it becomes to a small child who is so strong and hyper and who does not know what to do. Right? So there one doesn't have the wisdom we have. You have the energy, which is merit, but you don't have the wisdom. So in order to undertake this journey, we need both. You need the wisdom to see where you're going. You also need the energy to go. So the energy is given by the merit and the direction is given by the wisdom. So with these two things intact, then you can undertake this journey. Gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisattva. So with that in mind, so the teachings of the Buddha, because the purpose of the Buddha to give us teachings is to take us, to make us to undertake this journey, gate. So if he really wants to help us, he has to help us by teaching the two things, the wisdom and the merit. So the wisdom part, okay, let's say, the merit part, the teaching which is subsumed under the merit part, merit primarily consists of all other things like compassion, generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiasm, skillfulness. All these things fall under the category of the merit accumulation. And then, say, the wisdom to see the reality as it is, to see the ontological reality as it is, so that constitutes the wisdom. So now we have the wisdom accumulation and the merit accumulation, or the wisdom and merit. So the Buddha teaches, all these teachings can be subsumed under these two topics. Now, of all the numerous teachings given by the Buddha, so somebody has to inherit these teachings, inherit the teachings. So all the teachings which the Buddha gave, subsumed under the category of the merit, they were all inherited by Arya Maitreya. Right? Somebody has to inherit. For example, say in the olden days, the kings have to again empower the prince to become the king, or the princess to become the king or the queen. So this is what we have to pass down the lineage. Likewise, the Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching on the merit, that is all passed down to Arya Maitreya. So therefore, Arya Maitreya plays a very important role in our lineage of the teaching for us to undertake the journey of Gade Gade Paragade Parasamad Bodhisattva. Then on the other side, what is the other side? The teaching on the wisdom. Teaching of wisdom was all inherited by Arya Manjushri. The Buddha Shakyamuni then empowered Arya Manjushri to inherit the teaching on the wisdom. So that way, the teachings of the Buddha, they don't get lost. These two are being inherited by the two enlightened beings, Arya Manjushri and Arya Maitreya. So let's read. I prostrate to the benefactor Maitreya, who is the regent of the Buddha. So that is what? For him being the inheritor of the teaching on the merits. Number two, to Arya Manjushri, the confluence of the wisdom of all the Buddhas. So he, for being the inheritor of the teaching, for being the heir of holding the teaching of the wisdom of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Then, from Arya Manjushri to Arya Nagarjuna, from Arya Manjushri to Arya Nagarjuna. Then from Arya Maitreya to Arya Asanga. From Arya Maitreya to Arya Asanga. So this is the lineage. Arya Asanga to Arya Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga, and two who were prophesied by the Buddha. And these two, Arya Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga, these two are actually prophesied by Buddha Shakyamuni himself. Okay, so why these two play a very important role, Arya Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga? One, Arya Nagarjuna as the inheritor of the lineage from Arya Manjushri, and Arya Asanga as the inheritor of the lineage from Arya Maitreya. One. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that the teachings of the Buddha, particularly in the context of now look, there are so many facets. We see that there are overlapping concepts, overlapping understandings, overlapping, the sentiments. There are so many facets there. Don't mix up all these things. We have to know things very clearly. Another thing is pertaining to the philosophy, pertaining to understand what exactly is constituted, what exactly constitutes the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality. So the Buddha taught the four tenet systems. Of the four tenet systems, first two is fine. First two is relatively easy. Then third and the fourth. Third one is what? What's the first one? Vaibhashika. Second one is Sautantrika. Number third one is Chitta Mantra. Number four is Madhyamika. Within Madhyamika there are two. Okay, so those of us here who are new to this, don't worry. So this is finally all these pages. They are to go into detail, delineating all the concepts according to these four traditions separated. Don't worry. As long as you know, I was saying, I know that some of you become so tense. So many people, all the people, they know this, we don't know this, we don't know what this for. All others have these. So what you do is, okay. Okay, turn to page 26. If you want to know the four tenet systems, with the labels of the four tenet systems, page 26. The last paragraph says, reference 6. Second, the detailed presentation of Buddhist tenets has four parts: Vaibhashika tenets, Sautantrika tenets, Chitta-mantra, and the tenets of the entitylessness or the middle way. Middle way is Madhyamika. So these are the four Buddhist schools, right? Okay, now going back to page 15. Now, finally, there are two things. For example, say let's say that say there is a poisonous tree growing there, very strong poisonous tree, very huge poisonous tree growing there with millions of leaves. And there's a wind blowing through these millions of leaves and then hitting your body. And because of the poisonous leaves, the wind from the poisonous leaves hitting your body, you have skin rashes. So you're being disturbed by the skin rashes. And then these skin rashes because of the wind from these poisonous leaves. So what do? We remove the poisonous leaves. Right? We remove the poisonous leaves. Okay. By removing the poisonous leaves, you are freed from the skin rashes for the next maybe 10-20 days. Again the leaves grow, again the skin rashes happen. So what should you do now? You have to cut the root, right? You have to cut the root. Okay, now to cut the root, because the tree is so huge, right? And then say you have physically you're very strong, right? And then the instrument, the axe that you have is very blunt, it's not sharp, right? Okay, can you imagine that you can cut it with this very blunt, the axe which is not at all sharp? Can you imagine you being able to cut it? Although you have a tremendous energy, you cannot cut. So what you need is that you need a very sharp axe. Now you have a very sharp axe, but your body is so weak, you can't even lift the axe properly, right? You lift it, you hit it, and you're tired. Can you imagine you can cut the tree? You cannot. So you need a very sharp axe, you also need a very strong physical body, right? And who actually cuts it? Then you or the axe, which cuts the tree? The axe cuts. So the axe is exceptionally important. So this axe is symbolic of the wisdom. And the energy, body energy that you have, the strength that you have, that symbolizes the merit. The merit or the energy to say bodhicitta, compassion, and so forth, generosity and so forth. These are represented by the physical might, physical strength. But actually what cuts is the axe, that is the wisdom. So the wisdom plays an extremely, extremely important role. And because of which, for this wisdom, the finest of the wisdom, which the Buddha indicated as substitute, so which means that the path which I realized, or the truth which I realized, is so profound, is so peaceful. Its devoted elaborations is non-compulsive, that is clear light. Such a nectar, like the reality, the teaching, the path, is what I've discovered. Finding no one who can fathom the depth of this reality, I'd rather retire into the woods in silence. This is what the Buddha said. So this reality, finally, with which the beings can expect to, the scheme of which the beings can expect to be liberated from all miseries, this reality is so profound, because of the profundity, the extreme, the profundity of this reality. The Buddha taught this in 4 steps, known as the 4 tenet systems. Okay, now of the 4, we see that the number 3 and number 4, these two are exceptionally profound, number 3 and number 4. So, when the Buddha was, when the Buddha, historically speaking, we need to keep in mind the Buddha's biography in 2 ways. Historical biography of the Buddha and the uncommon biography of the Buddha. The common one and uncommon. Common referring to the historical, which accords with the historical account. And uncommon is the actual reality biography too. So according to the actual reality of the biography, there is no death to the Buddhas. Buddhas never die. But according to historical account, Yes, the Buddha displayed the deed of passing away, Mahaparinirvana was displayed. So that is according to the historical account, right? It's just in the eyes of the ordinary beings. But the reality, so there the Buddha never dies, right? Okay, so this is a little different. I think that we need to learn later on. For the time being, what I like to say is that according to the historical narration, say the Buddha taught all these 4 tenet systems. Then, on the in fact, the issue was raised by one of the Buddha's disciples, very likely Ananda. Ananda raised the issue to the Buddha. So this great teaching of yours, meaning the philosophy of the Mahayana. So when you assume Mahaparinirvana, who's going to uphold this teaching? This teaching may disappear. This was the issue raised by one of the Buddha's disciples, very likely Ananda. Then the Buddha on the spot made the prophecy of Aranigarjuna. Buddha said that in the land of coconuts, there will be the men, the bhikshu, born in the land of coconuts, and with the name Naga, with a part of his name Naga, he will learn, understand, and he will imbibe the Mahayana teachings, and then he will proliferate in all places, in all times, at all times. So this was the prophecy made by the Buddha Shakyamuni. So now here we see that to Aranigarjuna and Arasanga, there are so many enlightened beings. But say, for example, from the Nalanda Monastic University, since like the same 1st century AD, and then in Virgamashila University, then in Uttanapuri, and then say in Takshashila in the now Pakistan. So we see that there are so many monastic institutions, incredible, highly the academic in nature, very refined academic, the standards. From there, in fact, if not millions, for sure many thousands evolved. They came out, produced from these universities. But of these thousands and thousands, only 2 of them mentioned their names. Only 2 names are mentioned is because Aranigarjuna, of the 4 tenet systems, which are the ones which are the more difficult ones, which 2? Chittamatra and Madhyamika, the 2. So the Aranigarjuna, he's precisely given the prophecy by the Buddha Shakyamuni for proliferating the Madhyamika philosophy and the Aranigarjuna. So Aranigarjuna is revered for being the progenitor or the trailblazer. Trailblazer meaning, say, if there is if there is a jungle, the forest, nobody ever went there, and then say you have to create a road. You have to create a road, build a road, so that the first cart or the first car or the cart which you're going to drive to create a road, so that others can easily follow you. So the first one is you have to take the risk. You have to be exceptionally smart. You have to be exceptionally smart to make sure that it doesn't fall into a pit. Right? It doesn't fall into the pond, that it goes to a proper way towards the destination, that intended destination. So, Aranigarjuna, of all the 4 tenet systems which the Buddha taught, particularly the last 2, the Chittamatra and Madhyamika, the tenet systems, so these 2, over time, they disappeared from the eyesight of the common masses. They disappeared. So it is not that they disappeared totally. They were being practiced, studied by the individuals in low profile, but not in the public domain. So it was like a lost treasure. So Aranigarjuna was revered for reviving this incredibly great treasure which was lost for a time being, which is the Madhyamika tenet systems. So the Madhyamika tenet system was actually revived, which was totally lost like a forest, and then you create this initial path you create. So for this reason, Aranigarjuna is revered as the trailblazer, initial progenitor of this Madhyamika after the Buddha Shakyamuni. So Paramajeshwari, no. Aranigarjuna as a trailblazer of Madhyamika tenet systems. And then Ara Asanga as the trailblazer of Chittamatra philosophy, right? Chittamatra philosophy. Okay, now we can have such intensive discussions between Madhyamika, Chittamatra. This is what the Chittamatra thinks, this is what the Madhyamika thinks. All these, in order for us to have such a rich discussion on these different traditions, so that we can penetrate the ultimate realities in a very refined way. For this, we need to have these philosophical traditions. So these were being brought once back to light by these two great enlightened beings, Aranigarjuna and Arasanga. So for your information, the final philosophy, the final reality, as taught by the Buddha Shakyamuni, and represents that of the Madhyamika's view, but the Chittamatra was also taught by the Buddha Shakyamuni. Now the question is, if Asanga was the progenitor or the trailblazer of the Chittamatra philosophy, which means that his philosophy is not complete. This question. Asanga, is it that his philosophy is not complete, or his understanding of the philosophy is not complete? Okay, this question. So the answer to this is that Asanga, so say there are two things. One, what you think. Number two, what you have to represent. There are two things, right? Okay, some people, for example, the government officials, what they have in mind, they cannot express fully. For example, the ambassadors in the Indian ambassadors to the different countries, and different countries, they ambassadors to India. They cannot speak what they feel. They have to speak what the government wants you to speak. You cannot speak your mind, right? So they have their own thoughts, and they have what they say. There are two things. Likewise, Asanga, his real thought and what he taught. These two are two different things. His real thought is the philosophy of Madhyamika, and what he taught, the main philosophy which he taught, was the Chittamatra philosophy, right? Okay. So how do we know this? Historically speaking, how do we know this question? That Asanga, amongst his writings, amongst his compositions, there's one composition which is, I think, a commentary on Uttaratantra. No, the sublime, no, Uttaratantra is, I think, I'm not 100% sure. There's one, anyway, one of his compositions, there, the philosophy is purely Madhyamika philosophy. Out of the 100% of his compositions, maybe 5% of his compositions bear the philosophy of Madhyamika. The remaining 95% of his compositions bear Chittamata's philosophy. And each one of us, through seeing the difference in the depth of the Chittamatra philosophy and the Madhyamika philosophy, we can easily figure out that he himself was the advocate of Madhyamika philosophy. So what exactly is Madhyamika philosophy? What exactly is Chittamatra philosophy? That is what we have to study over time. For the time being, just for information. Okay, so we have Aranigarjuna and Arasanga. Aranigarjuna as the trailblazer of what? Trailblazer of Madhyamika tenet system, and Arasanga for being the trailblazer of Chittamatra philosophy. So it is because of the kindness of these two enlightened beings, now today we can have a rich discussion, reflection, meditation on the philosophy of Madhyamika and the philosophy of Chittamatra. It's all because of these two enlightened beings. And to the second Buddha, Lama Tsongkhapa, and his two disciples. So why the second Buddha, Lama Tsongkhapa, was brought here was that the author of the text was Venerable Kunjo Jigme, who was following the. So basically, we see that the teachings of Arya Nagarjuna, teachings of Arya Sangha in Tibet. So Arya Nagarjuna was 1st century AD from India, and Arya Sangha, like the 4th century, for the century AD. So these two enlightened beings, the legacies left by these two enlightened beings, when they came to Tibet, it was primarily the Sakya tradition, Sakyas, who emphasized so much on the very in-depth studies of the philosophy. And then, around the same time, there was the Atisha-Dibamara Shrikyanam, who happened to be there in the 11th century AD, who emphasized so much on the philosophy, studies of philosophy, and the practice of philosophy. And then, of course, Nyingma, Kaikyu, they were all the inheritant, the recipients, and the inheritors of the incredible great traditions from the Guru Padma Sambhava and from the Naropa, the great saint Naropa. So, and Naropa was such an enlightened scholar who had such enlightened scholarship from Nalanda University. And Guru Padma Sambhava, of course, he's really a Buddha. So we see that all these traditions, the 4 traditions, the major 4 traditions in Tibet, the insights and the practice rendered to us is something that we're all something which take us to enlightenment. Okay, with this, particularly for the intellectual, the contributions made in the literary world of Tibet, it was primarily from Sakya. Sakya Pandita Kungwe Gyaltsen, Sakya Pandita, incredibly great, made such a great contribution to the literary world of Tibet. And Lama Tsongkhapa, in 14th century, he made such a great, incredibly great contribution in the field of philosophy, psychology, metaphysics, and the logic in the world, in the literary world of Tibetan Buddhism. So it is for this, and then what we are learning from this is all from the author of the text, who was Venerable Kunjo Jigme, and who in turn inherited all the brilliant learning of the 4 10 systems through Lama Tsongkhapa. It's for this reason that Lama Tsongkhapa decided here. And then, which worthy scholar will not relinquish the effort to distinguish the truths of the 10 systems of one's own tradition from that of others? So here, what we need to keep in mind is that, so this was composed where? In Tibet or in India? It was composed in Tibet. In Tibet, everybody, if not 100%, 99.9% were Buddhist, right? So therefore, to directly say that we the Buddhists and you the non-Buddhists, it's very easy. There's no, antagonism coming, because everywhere you find the word of Buddhist in Tibet. Now in India, we should be really very careful, because India is the land which has an incredibly beautiful plurality of the religions. So therefore, we should be, and then had it been the case that it was back like 1,000 years ago, back in time, then India was very different. So there, the scholars from the different traditions, they actually meet and debate. This was such a brilliant, hot debate going between the scholars from different traditions. But today, such a practice is almost non-existent. So now, it is time for us to be, of course, we need to know all the traditions, respect all the traditions, reap the benefit of all the different traditions. So that is very important. And see what helps you, what benefits you from Hinduism, from Islam, from Christianity, from Buddhism, from Jainism, from Judaism, what we can benefit, extract them, learn all these things, and then the job is not for us to divide, It's a job for us to take everyone towards enlightenment, right? Not to leave and then, oh, you are not following Buddhism, okay, you go away. So I'll take all others towards the enlightenment. This is a total wrong understanding of Buddhism. Idea is to take everybody, let alone the human beings, even the tiny insects towards enlightenment. So this should be our endeavor. With this in mind, so what we study here, it says that which worthy scholar will relinquish the effort to distinguish the truth of the 10 systems of one's own tradition from that of others. So here what we need to think of is the 10 system based on selflessness and the 10 system based on the concept of this self. I would say the concept of this self. Intrinsic self and the emptiness of intrinsic self. Let us speak on that basis. So, say, if you study the two 10 systems so well, the author is saying, if you study the 10 systems, two 10 systems so well, 10 system grounded on believing intrinsic self, and 10 system grounded on the believing, not believing, and taking the self to be empty of intrinsic self, and the 10 system accepting self to be the intrinsically real. If you study the two things, no doubt you will see the admiration in the tenets of the emptiness of the intrinsic self. Okay. The unfolding of which allows one to perceive all the distinctions between the Buddhist and the non-Buddhist traditions. So meaning that say, what is being taught here is the author is advising us, encouraging us to study all the 10 systems. Don't confine yourself, oh, I'm a Buddhist, so the other things, there's nothing to do with me. This should not be your approach. It's saying that you have to study all the 10 systems. And then you decide. Don't just follow the Buddha blindly. Then you decide which is more helpful to you after studying all the 10 systems. Unfolding of which allows one to perceive all the distinctions between the Buddhist and the non-Buddhist traditions. All these 10 systems of the various traditions, you will come to know. Okay. It gives one a status of a supreme scholar amidst innumerable fine scholars. If you really learn all the 10 systems, so when you are with the Christians, you can freely speak about the Christianity, the theology of Christianity, the 10 systems of Christianity, and even the Christian scholars, the really lifelong Christian scholars, they should be amazed by the scholarship, the knowledge. And then you go to the people who adhere to the Samkhya tradition from the Hindu. There's one, like 200 years ago, there was no Hinduism. So this was a later development. The word Hinduism under one umbrella as Hinduism, there is a new development. There's new development. So pre 200 years, 300 years, what actually existed were the various traditions like Mimamsaka tradition, Vaisheshik tradition, then the Nyaya tradition, Samkhya tradition, Vedanta tradition, and then Jainism, Buddhism, and then Sikhism much later. So these traditions existed as individual traditions. So now, almost I would say that actual adherents, actual advocates of these different traditions, they almost disappear. Now what is left is, some who wholeheartedly adhere to the Vedanta tradition. So they exist still. Otherwise, most of the Samkhya, Mimamsaka, and Nyaya, they more become like a scholarly knowledge. And you don't really find in the form of group who say that this is our tradition. You don't really find one like that. It has degenerated greatly. Okay. It gives one a status of supreme scholar amidst innumerable fine scholars. So the idea is that be open to all the traditions. This is the advice. Be open to all the traditions and try to learn all the traditions. It gives one a status of supreme scholar amidst innumerable fine scholars and makes an unbiased audience raise the white banner of one's amazing repute. So this is one of the very poetic, saying that if you become such if you acquire such a level of the scholarship in all the different traditions, then everybody will be lost in admiration in your scholarship. So when you go to the people, adherents of the Vedanta tradition, just having discussion, and then you just flesh out the Vedanta's views, they will be so amazed, and they will become greatly admirable of your knowledge of Vedanta. Then you go to Buddhists, you bring the scholarship of all the 10 systems. Likewise, you go to Jainism, then the Christianity, Islam, like this. You see that everyone who considers themselves to be a scholar in the tradition, they will have a tremendous respect for you, for your scholarship. Okay. Therefore, I'm composing a brief note on 10 systems. The author, I, by compiling all the eloquent speeches of the noble ones, enlightened beings, in order to assist those having the same fortune as me. Intelligent aspirants should listen to this with reverence. Okay, so the idea is that because that this third tense is so precious, we should listen to this with great reverence, sense of value. For example, saying, how many of you have really in your life you have sensed the value of water? How many of you sense it in your life? Value of water. So, for example, one bottle of water, you don't want to waste it. You feel much more of much greater value than say 2,000, 30,000 rupees. So, did it ever happen to you? Anyone? Yes, when? Madhuji? No, today, for example, what I'm saying is that I value this water, but not as much as 20,000 rupees, to speak very honest, today. But there are times where a sense of value is just mentally imputed, depending on the situation. Did you ever come across a situation where this glass of water, right, or a bottle of water, one bottle of water, clean water, drinkable water, you feel so precious that you don't want to waste it at all? Then you dare to lose 20,000 rupees, but this one, no, not at all. Did you ever come across such a situation? No? Anyone? Mimi, when?
I was hiking in the Grand Canyon in Colorado. It was very, very hot, 45 degrees, and it was very hot.
Where hot?
The Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon in Colorado, in California.
And we were hiking down, and we ran out of water, part way down.
Yes, then?
And so, we had very, very little water left, and a long way to go. So the little bit we had was so precious, because
if somebody gives you the option, if somebody gave you the option, either you leave this water or you leave the $100, you leave the $100.
All right. Yeah.
Very good. This is what I meant. Exactly. Anyone else?
Correct. I think if I'm not wrong, Grand Canyon is in Nevada, not in California.
California, I added. Colorado. Mimi said Colorado.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else you would like to share? Okay, in fact, this will come to us. So at the moment, somebody who is water activist, we may say it's so precious even today, right? But speak very honestly. We should be speaking very honestly. Honestly speaking, at the moment somebody says you want to discard 20,000 rupees or this water, I will want to discard this water. Because the clean water easily get today. But there are times like what Lily shared with us, there are times do or die. Either you save this water or you die. In such situation, you will literally feel the water as like an elixir, as life-saving force. You will feel that. Okay, so the point is that when you see the value, then the feeling of the affinity, feeling of the preciousness will increase. So, finally, when we see that finally my job is to free myself from all the miseries, all the very exhausting miseries, right? The life, if you think very carefully, the kind of life that we go through, all the miseries, the pains, anxieties, fears, the stress, the pain of losing near and dear ones, this is so acute, so acute. So we don't want to go through these anymore. But there's no choice. There's no choice, right? For example, today, if somebody is diagnosed with cancer, then we have to go to consult a person. But it's not that we are not in that line. This is the unfortunate person. That's not the case. Tomorrow I can be diagnosed with a cancer. We never know. This is reality, right? So this, no, I don't want to repeat this. I want to be freed from all this kind of the problems. If we really want to be free from all the problems, we have to know how to get rid of the final cause of the problem. The final cause of the problem, we will learn from learning the 10 systems that self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude, these are the two main causes of all our problems, all our fears. How to get rid of this? Initially get rid of the self-grasping ignorance. Like the two hands coming together. If you remove one hand, self-grasping ignorance, the self-centered attitude alone cannot give you rise to the fear in you. So remove the self-grasping ignorance. Okay, how to remove the self-grasping ignorance? Right? So there's a threat to my life in Colorado, in the Great Canyons. So much of heat. I'm going to die. Right? So what? Your thirst can kill you. How to get rid of my thirst? How to stop myself from dehydration? With the water becomes so precious, right? Likewise, we see that self-grasping ignorance is at the root of all my miseries. How to get rid of this? Acquire the water of the wisdom of emptiness. Wisdom of emptiness plays a very important role. Now, the wisdom where can I get this wisdom of emptiness? Is from the study of the 10 systems. So therefore, you have to listen to this teaching with great respect. This is what the author is saying, right? Okay. Intelligent aspirants should listen to this teaching on the 10 systems with great reverence. Okay. Okay, now, as a very what I already explained to you now, so this is what the author is explaining here. Those who seek liberation from samsara, from their heart, meaning that those who seek liberation from samsara, where samsara, somewhere there, not like this. Samsara is all the undesirable things happening to us. All the undesirable things happening to us. And what kind of undesirable things? Anyone? Just, let us make this living. Let us try to make this, what the author is teaching, something living in us. Okay, let's see, what kind of undesirable things? Anyone that you really feel pained to experience it? Anyone? Raise your hands. Who said it? Who said the fear? Yes, fear. Very good. Over there. Okay, when one's parents, we see that they go through the pains, illness, and so forth. That is so excruciatingly painful to you as a child. Very good. That's very true. Anyone else would like to share undesirable things?
Yesterday, the death of the journalist, the murder of the journalist.
Okay, the death of the murder of the journalist is so painful. Yes, anyone else? Okay, we all have, the experiences of pains, anxieties, fear, and so forth. Let us not forget these things. If possible, by reflecting on the 4 seals of the Buddha's teachings. All compulsive things are impermanent, all contaminated things are of suffering nature. Everything is of nature empty and selflessness, transcending sorrow. Transcend sorrow. If you don't know what the misery is, transcend sorrow. If you transcend sorrow, then you will be free from miseries and you will experience the ultimate peace. Okay, so this is, if you can do that, that will be so precious. Okay, with this, It says that let us not wait, let us, including myself, I'm not just talking to you, including myself, let us not wait till the final shocking disaster befall on us. Right? Okay, I'm healthy, oh unfortunate boy, he's suffering from cancer, now he's diagnosed with cancer. Unfortunate girl, he's diagnosed with cancer, oh unfortunate. It's not like that I'm the enlightened one, I'm not going to have the problem anymore. Right? Okay. Then one day, when we see these things, it should be a reminder that this person, today diagnosed with a cancer, if the person is, say, 40 years today, since birth till now, the person was not at all diagnosed with the cancer. This, from birth till today, that was the time which, in my case, I'm experiencing till today. Maybe hitting 50 now, right? So this is what we're experiencing. Simply because I was not diagnosed with cancer till now. So therefore, this person who is diagnosed with cancer today, unfortunate one. I'm the one not diagnosed with cancer till now. And the next 20 years, 30, 40 years, I'm free. This is not the case. This is illusion. We can be the next person. We can be the next one. So the point is that it would be good for us to reflect on these points every now and then. The reality. So that if you know the reality way ahead of time, if you know the reality of the miseries, the pains that we have to go through, let us not hide the pains. Let us not hide the pains, right? One day when the pains really strike us, that is so shocking, then too late for us to get out of that. So now, while we're still very healthy, and each one of us, you just see whether you agree with me or not. You are the youngest of the days, the lifespan that you have in your hand today. You agree with me or not? You are the youngest today of the lifespan that you have in your hand now. Is it true or not? So why not you use this youngest day for your practice to prepare yourself to be freed from these pains, not only in this life, for the future lives also. So how should we do that? As the author says here, those who seek liberation from samsara, liberation from the fears of samsara, from their heart, from the depth of their heart, without aspiring for material gains, services, praise for this life, should put in effort in the means to experience the untainted view of selflessness, meaning to see things as dreamlike, to see things as illusions. It doesn't mean that we have to then discard all the good food, good house, these things. This was not a connotation. We have to survive. But our emphasis, our total, the dedication of the energy towards material gains, that must be discarded, right? Just to sustain ourselves, we need all these things, there's no harm in it. And things coming very natural, there's no harm in them. Yet, the dedication must be towards discovering how to get rid of this root cause of the pain, the tumor of the cancer tumor that I have, how to remove that. The tumor of the self-grasping ignorance, how to get rid of that. It is through introducing the counter force. What is counter force? The wisdom of emptiness, the view of the selflessness. Untainted view of selflessness. In the absence of the profound view of selflessness, one cannot eliminate suffering from its root. See, we can do this practice, that practice, so far they're good. For example, the practice of making prostrations, practice of making mantra offering, practice of reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, practice of sitting on fasting. Sit on fast. These are very good practice, of course. But the benefit that they have, it is on the surface. They will not affect the self-grasping ignorance. They will not affect the self-grasping ignorance, right? So how? For example, if I recite, so I do recitation mantras. When I do recitation mantras, right? or say Dhyatha, and then I'll move into tears, Dhyatha, Om Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgati with a beautiful tune, right? Okay, so who's been moved? This intrinsically, objectively existent Dorji is moved. It's amazing. This beautiful mantra, Dhyatha, Gate Gate, the intrinsically, the existent mantra, beautiful mantra, it made me intrinsically moved, objectively moved into tears, objectively tears come out, right? So there, it is like everything happening in a dream, right? In the dream, say, we're saying, oh, I should wake up from the dream. In the dream, you're saying this. Say in the dream, right? Oh, I should wake up from the dream. Hey, Dorji, wake up. Actually, you're false asleep. Say, actually, you are not actually woken up. And I should wake up, I should wake up. Hey, you come to help me to wake me up. In the process, actually, we are reinforcing the dream to remain as dream. We are not putting effort to get out of this. So the point is, only when you wake up, then all the other practices will become meaningful. So the point is that recitation mantra, being prostrations, and then sitting for, say, the fast. All these are amazing good practices. By no means we are to denigrate the value of these practices, while we encourage, we see the value of the wisdom of emptiness, to wake up from the sleep of ignorance, right? By no means we are to undermine the other practice. Other practices so precious. It is like, say, the food. What is the food? I had, say, the pizza. Or I say, I have rice and dal. But rice and dal, to really enjoy this, there must be a pinch of salt. Salt is not rice and dal. And then a little bit of masala sauce are required. And for those people who are keen on chili, you also need a little bit of mirchi there. Right? So these things are not rice and dal. These are not the food. But without these, the food is so bland. Right? So these are required. By no means we are to undermine the other practices. But if the rice and dal is missing and you have just the chilies, the salts and masalas, it's terrible. It's a disaster. So we have to keep in mind that these things are required along with the rice and dal, right? So the main practice finally are to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. It is for this reason that the Buddha Shakyamuni is revered as the fully awakened one. So we have to wake up. Now to wake up, these things will help us. These things, making prostrations, making offerings, and then say offer mental offering, chanting, and the fasting. All these things, these factors meant to awaken us. They will help us if at the core of our the thought process that I have to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. If that is there, then all other practices are so meaningful. Okay, and then should you find someone who has no connection, no interest in this wisdom of emptiness, the waking up, and then wholeheartedly engaged in chanting mantras, or say the making prostration, so forth, still I would suggest don't undermine those people. Even that is so precious, so precious, that not doing anything, and in worst case, harming others. So these actions are much, much more precious. Don't undermine them. See if you can skillfully encourage them. This is amazing. At the same time, see if you can also explore how to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. Right? You can encourage them, inspire them in a tactful way. Okay, so with this, the author says that in the absence of the profound view of selflessness, one cannot eliminate suffering from its root. However long one may practice loving kindness, compassion, or bodhicitta. At the same time, when we say that without the wisdom of emptiness, then however long you may practice compassion, so forth, then you will not be free from samsara. When this statement is made, we are not to think that the other side, practice compassion, is nothing. Right? This is not true. What we have to do is that the author is trying to bring the balance between the two things. Compassion is required Don't skip that. It's so important. Meanwhile, don't skip the wisdom of emptiness. These two are like the two wings of the bird. Two wings of the bird. If the wisdom is missing, just a compassion part, it's just one wing, you cannot fly. And if the compassion is missing, with just the wing of the wisdom, it cannot take you to Buddhahood. So for you to fly to the Buddhahood, we need to have the two wings, the wisdom and the compassion together. Okay. This is said by the great Tsongkhapa. Tsongkhapa is Lama Tsongkhapa in the three principal aspects of the path. This text is so precious. The three principal aspects of the path. See if you can recite this daily on a daily basis. If possible, try to understand the meaning. You try to understand the meaning and see if you can recite this. Okay. So what it says in that book, not really book, it's just about like 14 stanzas, just 14 stanzas. It's just 14 stanzas, where it says, although you train in the renunciation and the mode of bodhicitta, but without wisdom that realizes the ultimate reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic existence. Therefore, strive to understand dependent arising, strive to understand emptiness, dependent arising. To delineate the tenet systems of one's own tradition meaning the Buddhist traditions from that of others, in order to abandon wrong views and to discern the various levels of the subtlety of the gross and the subtle selflessness, I'll explain the tenet systems in two parts, the general exposition and the detailed explanations. General exposition, what does it mean by tenets? What does it mean by tenets in general? So this is what he likes to explain first, followed by the detailed explanation of the tenet systems of the non-Buddhists in those days, and the tenet systems of the Buddhism, the four schools. Okay. So now the tenets in general, page 17, reference 1b, first, general exposition. Okay, so we need to know how to use this. So this, the reference number, cross-reference, these are all what I added. Me as a translator of this book into English translator of this book, for the easy reference, for the readers to have easy, the easy access to the various aspects, various parts of this book. For easy references, I deliberately added these things. So if you know how to use this, it's so convenient. This will connect you. This will give you a whole network of the text, and you will know where things are and how things are connected, how this topic is connected to the next, and how the total aspect of this part is connected to the next total aspect. All these things will come to know if you know how to use this. Then this is not really difficult, it's easy. Okay, so the terminology, the tenets in Tibetan is dukta. In Tibetan it's dukta. In Sanskrit it is siddhanta. In Tibetan it is dukta. The terminology siddhanta or dukta, in English tenets, is not baseless verifications. Meaning, author says that this word siddhant is not something which was crafted by some intelligent person. Rather, it actually came from the Buddha's own teachings. It's not baseless fabrication, for it is mentioned in the teachings of the Buddha. So, why the author is so keen to track it back to the Buddha is because, say, we are undertaking a journey of enlightenment. When we take the journey of enlightenment, we have to follow the track followed by someone who actually already achieved enlightenment. Right? We have to follow the track which was actually experienced by someone already. So therefore, from what we are discovering after learning all these 10 systems, we see that in the history of humanity, the Buddha Shakyamuni, if you look at his biography, we see that through what we've read already from page 3 of this prayer book, Prayer and Meditation Manual from this book, page 3. the first stanza, which reads, the words of salutation, pramana samuchaya, the one who is transformed into the reliable guide, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and the protector to remove prostrations. So this stanza is so important. This stanza was written in 6th century AD, 6th century AD. And then 7th century AD, 6th century AD, Acharya Dignaga wrote this. 7th century AD, so this is just a word of salutation. And the main body of the text is there. Then in 7th century, then Acharya Dharmakirti, he was born. And then he just went through this text, Pramana Samuchaya, written by Acharya Dignaga in the 6th century. Acharya Dharmakirti, he saw this stanza, and he was so amazed, thrilled by seeing the wonder, the depth of this stanza. And on this, just for one stanza, to explain this, he came up with 283 stanzas to comment on this stanza. 283 stanzas. And the 283 stanzas, for us to understand, we need 2 huge volumes. Understand these 283 stanzas. For me to translate those 283 stanzas, it took a toll. It took a toll, right? So, to really understand that, the point is that this stanza is so concise and it's amazing. If you understand this, then you look at the statue of the Buddha, you will be so captivated by the wonder of this enlightened being, right? Okay, this is how the intelligent people generate faith in the enlightened beings. Okay, so this will come later. So now, so therefore what I'm saying is that the Buddha Shakyamuni, we can say that he actually experienced enlightenment on the basis of these reasonings. The one who has transformed into a reliable guide, motivated by the altruism to benefit all beings, the teacher, the Sugata, the protector, to aim prostrations. So with this stanza, if you understand the depth of this stanza, then you will see the wonder of this. How this enlightened being, from a very ordinary Prince Siddhartha, from the state of being a very ordinary Prince Siddhartha, from there he eventually became an enlightened being, not through a belief that, oh, he's enlightened, he was a prince, he's enlightened, not with belief, through seeing these 4 rational points, say, motivated by altruism to benefit all sentient beings, number 1. Number 2, the teacher. Number 3, the Sugata. Number 4, the protector. On this basis, you, then, the Prince Siddhartha, have transformed from the ordinary state to the reliable guide, to being a reliable guide, to guide all the beings towards total freedom from miseries. Okay, so it says, Lanavatara Sutra says, so in the context of Buddhism, whenever you find the mention sutra, always refers to the teachings of the Buddha directly, the direct teachings of the Buddha. Keep that in mind when it's mentioned sutra. Whereas in the non-Buddhist traditions, contemporary, the texts and the non-Buddhist traditions, sutra, don't take, oh, this is, even the Buddha's teachings are cited there in this tradition. Don't think like this. So the same vocabulary is used by the Buddhists and non-Buddhists. In the Buddhist context, whenever you find the word sutra, you can see that as the direct teachings of the Buddha. Okay, Langavatara Sutra says, my tradition of teaching is twofold. That of advice, in Tibetan Tempa, and Siddhant, Tibetan Dutta. For ordinary people, I speak advice. For yogis, I teach tenets. Meaning that, say, the Buddha, when the Buddha was alive, can you imagine that what would be the style of teaching like? Right? What would be his style of teaching like? For example, what we are doing here in Tibet House, announcements coming every week, like this happening? No. The Buddha was moving from one place to another, to the next place, to the next, walking, right? And then in the process, people seeing that this man is so special. Just from the look, you could see the glow of intelligence, the glow of compassion, radiating compassion from this the person, and then their followers who equally seem so enlightened, but they're following him, right? Following him. Then, oh, we have so much problem in a village, so he might be able to help us. Oh, Venerable Sir, very casually, Venerable Sir, we have this problem, so please help us, right? And then the Buddha goes there, give teachings. Okay, so there, when to do with, okay, when there's little conflicts happening in the village, the Buddha may give advice. This complication is easy to be solved. What do you prefer? You want to live in the complication, fight between amongst yourself, or to feel yourself as like a big family, one family? Then they will say one family, be one family, we are all one family, right? Advice, no philosophy at all. So these are known as advice. Advice to talk about cause effect. Cause effect. If you see things as we, me, and you, this will result in fights. If you see you as we, then it will result in happiness. This is advice on the ground of the cause-effect relationship. So those teachings grounded on the cause-effect, not really into the philosophy on the cause and effect, how to be good and so forth. These are known as the advice. The advice. And whereas, then how to, so this is what? Within the sleep, say within this, which is better? Say, I'll give you three scenarios. In the sleep, you are dreaming. In the dream, one scenario, somebody comes and tells you that, hey, you have a problem. You have a problem, financially you have a problem. Okay, the other person who's sitting next to you, in his bag, you see so much of money there, you steal them and then you'll be happy, right? One. You steal it, other person sells it, other person start beating you up. Number one. Number two, then after this, the dream continues. After this, then somebody tells you, hey, don't steal. Don't steal. Even if you find this bag full of money, you try to locate the person, the owner, and give it back. And then, in the dream, right? Suddenly you found the bag full of money, and you go to track the owner. You give the owner. Owner was so surprised, and the owner gave you like say 20,000 rupees as a present. Right? Instead of beating, we raised 20,000 rupees. What an honor for you. And the third dream continues, third dream, the person said, hey, both are dream. Wake up. Wake up. And when who's that? Right? The person is saying that in the dream, and then your mother actually wakes you up. Right? And wow. Okay, receiving the beating because of stealing is also a dream. And then giving back the money and giving the 20,000 rupees is also a dream. You had 3 episodes. Of the 3 episodes, tell me which is the worst, which you don't like. The first one. Which is the best you like? Waking up. Which is the middle? Not waking up, in the dream, doing good. Thinking that what you're doing good is real, is not dream. It's much better than doing bad thing in the dream. But it's inferior as compared to waking up. You getting it? So, in the dream, somebody tells you, hey, don't steal. Do good things. The person is not actually telling you how to wake up. Right? So that is the advice. So that helps us while you are in dream, that you don't suffer while you're in dream. But how to get out of the suffering of the dream altogether? Wake up. So that is the 10 systems. So the Buddha taught the 10 systems for the intentional people who have the capacity who have the conducive factors to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. So for them, the Buddha taught the 10 systems. Okay, so within the dream, what's the problem? The main problem is that you receive the beatings. That's the problem. You don't want to have this. So how to get rid of this problem? 2 ways. One is, within the dream, do good. Other one is, wake up. You're getting it? In the dream, what's the problem? You're receiving the beating out of your act of stealing. This is the problem. How to get out of this problem? How many ways are there? two ways. What is the first way? Within the dream, do good. Don't steal. Okay, one. What is the other way? Wake up. Right? Wake up. Which is more reliable? Which is more stable? Waking up, even the basis for the saying, oh, that I'm dreaming, that I'm bitten by this person so badly, even that is dream, right? So, oh, I was so badly bitten, I should not be in the dream. In the dream, I should not be doing that, I shouldn't be stealing. Still, you are forcing yourself. You're forcing yourself in the dream. I should not steal. If I steal, then again I will receive beatings. Okay, although you don't engage in stealing, although you don't receive the second beating, but you're forcing yourself not to do bad things. You know that. But when you wake up, do you have to force yourself not to do bad things? Automatic. The very basis of doing bad things is dissolved, right? Even if somebody tells you that if you steal that dream money, after waking up, if somebody tells you that I will make you a billionaire if you steal the dream money, will you steal it? No, there's no basis at all. There's no basis. This is my dream. This is not coming through. This is not the reality. Okay, so the advice and the tenets. Advice is more like what? Advice is more like on the basis of cause-effect relationship. Then the Buddha gave the advice how to do good things, how not to do bad things. So this is the analogy for doing good things in the dream. Don't forget it, right? So this analogy you will understand in its fullest form when you get a glimpse of how to wake up from the sleep of ignorance, how to come out of the dream. Then you will understand it fully. For the time being, okay, that is the meaning of the advice. And then to teach how to wake up from the sleep of ignorance. What do you mean by waking up from the sleep of ignorance? When you wake up from the dream, how do you classify the two things? That you are in a dream, that you are waking up from the dream. How would you classify the two things? How would you distinguish the two things? Anyone? How would you distinguish the two things? One, that you are in a dream, and the other, that you have woken up from the dream. How would you distinguish the two things? Anyone? Yes, Madhuji? One is that you realize the reality of the dream, and the one you see the dream as when you see the reality of the dream, which is see the dream as dream. When do you realize that? When you wake up. In the dream, you will see the dream as real. You are not seeing the reality. You are getting it? Okay. So this is how we make the distinction. Which means that when you wake up, you see the dream as dream. Dream as dream means dream is coming from your mind. In the dream, you will see the dream as coming from the object, not from the mind, from the object. When you see the dream as coming from the object, not from the mind, you are dreaming. When you see the dream as coming from your mind, not from the object, you are waking up. This is the distinction. Likewise, when you come to know that everything that exists in this universe, whether samsara, whether bad things, whether good things, they're all coming from the mind, from the subject, nothing from the object. This is the time when you have woken up from the sleep of ignorance. Right? Okay. So for this, for ordinary people, I speak advice. For yogis, I teach tenets. So the siddhant, tenets, this is not a word, a self-fabricated word by the later scholars, but this is actually the word used by the Buddha himself. Okay. A person is classified into two, those not affected by tenets and those affected by tenets. The former is the one who is not exposed to the study of philosophical treatises, seeks the mere mundane happiness of this life through spontaneous and ordinary thoughts that do not engage in analysis and inquiry. The latter, through training in the philosophical treatises, expounds the concept of the basis, path, and the results by means of reasons and scriptures which are established by his or by her own mind. Okay, so maybe one or two questions if you have. We will leave here for today. By the way, on Sunday we don't have class. Okay, we don't have class. One or two questions should you have? If not, okay, Gabriela.
Yes, Shila, this is just a question related to the accumulation of merit and wisdom and the kayas. So I think you indicated, if I'm not wrong, in the last class that actually you can never achieve dharmakaya without rupakaya and rupakaya without dharmakaya. So if we go backwards now, like today, in terms of this paragraph, and you speak about the importance of merit accumulation alongside. But the subtlety of the topic of emptiness and selflessness. So isn't it that unless you put a lot of effort into the accumulation of merit side as well, you just forget?
Okay, good question. Same. The point is, we talked about the wisdom and the merit. So in terms of the result, we talked about the basis, the path, and the result. So the basis, there are two things. Because of the basis or the reality, there are two things. Then the path we follow, it has two paths. Because we follow two different paths, in the resultant state, we have two different results. So the basis, what are the two bases, what are the two realities? Conventional reality and the ultimate reality is the basis. Because the reality is constituted of two aspects, conventional reality and the ultimate reality. So the path that we follow on the basis of these two bases, the path is also twofold. On the basis of conventional truth, we have the accumulation of, the path is the accumulation of merit. On the basis of the ultimate truth, the path that we follow is the path of the accumulation of wisdom. So from the ultimate truth, the path that we follow is the wisdom, and from the conventional truth, the path that we follow is the merit. Because the nature of the path that we follow is twofold. The wisdom and the merit, as a result that we will achieve, the ultimate result that we will achieve is also twofold. Because of the merit, the result that we get is the rupakaya, form body, and because of the wisdom, the result that we get is dharmakaya, two. Okay, two bases, two parts, and the two results. So, on the basis of the result, we spoke about the two kayas and two bodies of the Buddha, and in more detail, we spoke about the four kayas. So from there, we said that all these four kayas, they are more simultaneous. It's not that there's a sequence. We can explain, in terms of our understanding, we can sequentially explain them in the form of a sequence. But in actuality, in the actual light of the accomplishment, attainment, all these four you attain simultaneously. Okay, so that's the resultant state. Now, in the path, the form path, accumulation merit, accumulation wisdom. So, saying how we explain for the path, for the result, we said that all the four kayas, they are the two kayas, they are simultaneous. Now for the path, the wisdom and the method, are these two simultaneous? Not this question. So the issue raised is that for the path, one is wisdom, other one is method. So for the wisdom, which is seeing everything as the nature of emptiness, the nature of selflessness, everything is illusion-like, to get to to acquire such a depth of understanding, to acquire such a subtlety, the intricacies of the wisdom of emptiness, it must be backed by enormous accumulation of merit. So, without that amount of accumulation of merit, as beforehand, how can you possibly achieve this very refined understanding of this selflessness? If that is the case, then the merit should precede the wisdom, right? So, in the resultant state, we see that these two are simultaneous. The two kayas, rupakaya and the dharmakaya, these two are simultaneous. In the causal state, in the path, the state of the path, seems like the merit should precede the wisdom. Is this the case? This is the question. Okay, so the answer is overall speaking, generally speaking, and specific. Generally speaking, the reality is that the wisdom and the method, they should go hand in hand. It's not that you first do the merit, and then when you already become older, then you think of the wisdom, it's too late. Right? Or you keep going wisdom. Without merit, you will never get the wisdom. So how should we do? So we should go for both simultaneously. Simultaneously, right from the beginning. Say, what way? For the wisdom, emphasis should be on the studies. For the wisdom, initially, emphasis should be on the studies. There must be some material for you to reflect on for the studies. Studies, more study. And then when you have an adequate amount of material through studying, then you start emphasizing on the reflection. What you have studied, whether they hold true, whether they are true or not. You subject them to analysis, critical inquiry. So through this, you will gain conviction. That's very true. What I'm seeing, this is all I dream. 100% what I'm seeing is all I dream. You will gain a very profound conviction. You don't have to believe in it. Through rational analysis, you can gain conviction that it's 100% true that what I'm seeing is all just coming from my mind. Nothing's really there from the object. It's like dream. Once you gain conviction in this, then you keep habituating, keep reversing, undoing the bad habit of seeing things as objective real by introducing the counter force, the wisdom of emptiness, subjected to the meditation. You familiarize with this practice. So this is how we should do with the wisdom part. Now for the method part, merit or the method is also known as method accumulation, merit accumulation, same. So for the method or the merit part, what we do is that, so deep inside, cultivate a sense of love and affection towards others. Cultivate the sense of love and affection towards others. Because the basic framework, the ground of the Buddha's teaching is compassion. The ground for the Buddha's teaching is compassion. Even though you may follow personal liberation path, to seek personal liberation, not Buddha for all beings, but still the ground for any teaching of the Buddha should be compassion. So there must be the element of compassion within. Not that you're close and near dear ones, you have compassion. For others, okay. Right? Okay, for the Buddhists, yes, compassion. For non-Buddhists, no. This is totally a disaster. This is a total misconception of Buddhism. So, compassion means unconditional compassion. Compassion without demanding any condition. Provided you are my neighbor, I love you. Provided you are my relative, I have compassion towards you. These should not be the conditions. With no conditions, you should be loving and caring towards all. Right? Yet, oftentimes people come up with a question. But the moment you have unconditional love towards others, you try to express this, people take advantage of that. People take advantage of my unconditional love towards others. That is the clear indication of our lack of skillfulness. So, where compassion is emphasized is the Mahayana teaching, and the Mahayana teaching emphasizes so much on skillfulness. So the compassion should be skilled compassion. Skilled compassion. Okay. So the point is that wisdom should be emphasized through studying more initially. Studying more. For the method accumulation, emphasize, ground your whole mentality on skilled unconditional love, skilled compassion towards others. So meanwhile, try to learn the various things. For example, say like the habitual tendencies. For example, the practices like making prostrations, offering the butter lamps, offering water bowls, and so forth. And even these, don't do them blindly. See, try to learn the rationalities behind each of these gestures. Why should we do this? Why should we do that? And so forth, right? And say, they make offerings to the statue, Buddha statue made of, made of stones, made of brass, right? Well, this is not Buddha. Idol worship, right? Idol worship is to be not to be encouraged. So some saints, right? The saints of some of the traditions, they denounce idol worship. So this idol worship, in fact, early this year in Israel, I met someone, and the plumber, a plumber, and then a plumber, he happened to be in Thailand, and he was so innocent, and he said that, "You're a Buddhist." I said, "Yes," and he's so daring also, very daring. He said that, "You worship the stone Buddha, you worship the metal Buddha." I said, I understood what he was saying. I said, "Yes." So what's this is a stone, you're worshipping the stone. This is metal, you're worshipping metal. Stone is nothing, stone will not give you food. He said like this. So in a way he's rejecting the idol worship. So I said, okay, so I was first let him speak. And he was very strongly telling me, "You're worshiping but the stone." I'm not worshiping the stone, but he meant the Buddha made of stone. But he was putting in the other way. You're worshiping by the stone, you're worshiping by the metal, and huge metal. He was saying like this, huge metal, a huge stone. Stone will not give you money. Stone will not give you food, he said. Then I told him, that, "Do you keep your mother's picture, mother's photograph?" He said, "Yes." "Mother's photograph is not your mother. Why do you keep your mother's photograph?" Then he said, "What is my mother's photograph?" Right? Mother's photograph. I look at it and it reminds me of my mother. Likewise, this is not the Buddha, this is stone, you're right. But look at this, it'll remind me of the Buddha. This is so good. Right? Remind me of the Buddha. So he said, "Yes." So he admitted, he acknowledged. Okay, so the point, so why I digress this much? Accumulation merit. Okay, so doing these things, say all these gestures, we have to know the rationalities behind all these gestures, right? So the final merit accumulation is holding a compassionate heart. With a compassionate heart is the magnet of all the virtues. Is the magnet of all the virtues, compassion, right? Okay. So many more things will follow, and then another extremely skilled way of accumulating merit is rejoicing in the virtues of others. This is, in one way, it's so easy. On the other hand, it's very difficult. Right? It's just a mental exercise, and you don't have to spend anything physically. Right? From that point of view, it's so easy. For example, say, for somebody to engage in the virtue of generosity, you have to actually literally give money. You have to separate money from your side, right? And then you have to physically actually go there in service, mentally rejoicing in the virtues of others. You don't spend even a single penny. You can accumulate enormous merit. Somebody engages in the act of generosity, of say giving, 1 lakh rupees to someone, and then you may not have any money. You simply rejoice in this person. Amazing, so good that this person engaged in the act of generosity of 1 lakh rupees. Amazing, amazing. What a good gesture, amazing, right? You rejoice in that. If your spiritual realization is higher than that benefactor, it says that the merit that you accumulate becomes the double. It becomes double the merit accumulated by the person who actually engaged in giving 1 lakh rupees. So if you don't give even a single money, you reap the benefit of accumulating merit of giving 2 lakh rupees. While the poor person who actually literally gave 1 lakh rupees, earn only the merit of separating 1 lakh rupees, and you earn the merit of separating 2 lakh rupees, right? So there it is because of the skillfulness in rejoicing in others' virtues instead of jealousy, instead of being jealous. Okay, but although this seems so simple, in reality, in actuality, it's so difficult because all our physical actions, they're all driven by our thought process, our mind. So our mind is not trained to be so fluid, to be so flexible in generosity. Our mind is not doing that. So because of which, the rejoicing in the virtues of others, although just a mental exercise, is very difficult. So the job is one way where the Buddhas mentioned that so efficient way of accumulating merit, which Lama Tsongkhapa said that the Buddhas mentioned. Lama Tsongkhapa, I'm quoting Lama Tsongkhapa, who said that the Buddhas mentioned that the easiest way by which to accumulate such massive virtues in such a short span of time is the act of rejoicing in the virtues of others. This is so beautiful. Okay, so rejoicing and compassion, two things. And this rejoicing, actual rejoicing, most efficiently comes out when there is a deep compassion inside. How? Say, the mother and the child. The child for the first time in his or her life, maybe he or she is aged, say like 12. 12 means which class? Age 12, which class? Class 7, let's say class 7. So far, he or she was the mediocre in the class, average in the class. For the first time, when she was in class 7, she or he became the topper in the class, for the first time. So say, the mother of this child will have jealousy or will rejoice, will have tremendous joy in your child's success. Incredible, will take the pride, right? Whereas your child is the average child and your neighbor's child is also an average child, and suddenly you heard the news that your neighbor's child is the topper and your child is still the average. Do you rejoice? Do you have the same sense of, wow, amazing, taking pride in the success of your neighbor's child? No. Could be very sarcastic. Oh, it's because something, right? Your child, wow, amazing. Everywhere you will be the BBC to broadcast, right? How is this happening? The rejoicing in the success of a child is happening. How? What made this mother rejoice in the success of your child? What made you not rejoice in the success of a neighbor's child? Why? Because of love and affection, right? If the love and affection is there as a ground, automatically rejoicing in others' virtues is so easy. Where the love and affection is lacking, yes, but, yes, because. There's always because or but, right? Always there's a tendency to undermine. With love and affection, incredible sense of rejoice, finding joy will happen. Okay, so, yes, we'll quickly do the end dedication prayer. Page 309. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate a mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Truth. I confess the negativities individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings. I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, this is the world. The path of union and intensity compassion is loosely explained by the protector of the Dharma and the beings of the snowland. With the lotus soul that tends in Gyasu, we subjugate you their wishes are fulfilled spontaneously. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative forces, humans or non-humans, who however menace with perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas, be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the three jewels. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by Aravinji Shri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings of independent origination in particular, even in cosmic life.